welcome to this week's coffee chat with Creative Edge Travel. I'm Sierra Busch, the founder, and we offer small group trips to the lesser known areas of Italy and custom trips. We're all about helping people experience Italy's far-flung places where they can really understand the fading traditions and get to meet people that are local in the place and see, experience Italy through their eyes. So today we're talking with Elka. She also goes by Elle, and I was really intrigued by her because she has a very interesting background from different cultures, but she has started her own life and her path in Italy. And so many of us have dreamt of starting our lives in Italy, whether seriously or just daydreaming about it. So I'm really excited to hear from her what her experience has been actually doing. So Elka, you get along your journey, kind of where the idea started, your first time to Italy, how it impacted you, and how you got to where you are now, living there, raising a family, and everything in between.
Okay, so well, I guess my Italian journey first started when I met my husband. So I met my husband, Gabriele, in Bondi, actually. We were both working at a bar called The Bucket List right on the beach, and it was summer and very romantic, and we were young, and we fell in love very quickly, which was really beautiful. And so I had never I had never been with an Italian. He'd only been here for maybe a month or so. His English was great because he had been living in London and America. But yeah, so that's where my journey began with him. And we got married after 10 months of knowing each other. And then, yeah, I know. And I'm not one for commitment, and so it was just right. It was just right, you know. So anyway, we fell pregnant 3 months after we got married, and our life began really fast. So, but it didn't feel that way. It felt really right, and all in divine timing. Yeah. So my first trip to Italy. The first time I landed here was when our daughter Isabella was 7 months old. And we landed because he lives in northern Italy. So we landed in Milan and drove back to the countryside where his family lived at the time, and they moved, but still in a similar area. So about an hour from Milan. And it was mind-blowing, of course. It wasn't the seaside, it wasn't the colourful houses, it was a very different feel. And of course, I had these expectations of Amalfi or, you know, the coastal lines, and I had to readjust. It took me a little bit of time. And so the first time that I really felt like I was in Italy, my husband took me and I took it to Milan on a day trip, and we caught the metro and I can remember coming up from
I think it's back now. Your sound was really low for a second there. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I've also got okay, wonderful. I remember coming up from the metro and seeing the Duomo in Milan, and I just started crying, which is totally embarrassing and slightly crazy, but yeah, I was crying, very overwhelming, because that was the first time I really felt the age and the history of Italia, you know, like it's very different to Australia. Australia is young and Italy is very old and very special. Anyway, so that was my first trip here. And we've been a few more times before we decided to move, but yeah. Anyway.
So first time meeting his family and his time in Italy was after you're already married and pregnant?
Well, no, actually, his mum and his father and his brother and sister. His sister lived in Sydney already. She had been there for a year before him. But his mum and father and little brother came to Australia for our wedding, which was really special. It was a big surprise. They arrived the morning of, and he was just flabbergasted. So that was very special.
Amazing. So when you decided to try to move to Italy, what was the process like, and how did you choose the area you wanted to live in?
Okay, so we decided to move to Italy. Actually, it was me that decided to move to Italy because it took a little bit of convincing for my husband. And you may have heard that before, because Italians, they do find that work is difficult here. It can be difficult here, depending on what you do, and finances and opportunity. And so a lot of young Italians decide to move from Italy because of this. So once we had our second daughter, River, I knew that we weren't happy in Sydney. We weren't fulfilling our dreams. We weren't being able to have time to concentrate on the young children that we had, the love that we had. And it's such a fast-paced place, Sydney. You know, it's a big city. And it's not a big city, not even like Rome or Milan or Florence. It's really disconnected. It can be. It's a beautiful place. I love Sydney. I really do love Sydney, but it can be disconnected. And for a young family, it was very difficult. So I convinced him, after making many positive and negative lists, etc., to give it a go. We'd been back a few times. I had made some nice friends here. I felt the Italian lifestyle. I had my first tastes of aperitivo, food brought with drinks. And I just knew that we also needed the family support that Italian families are. My family, my mother is very supportive, but she lived 4 hours on an aeroplane away in Queensland. So it was, you know, I knew that we needed that family support. And so I convinced him to move back, and we moved, of course, with the family. So his family is in, it's about 45 an hour drive down from Milan. We're close to a city called Piacenza, but we live in the countryside. So we moved straight in with his parents, which was interesting and lovely. I didn't do washing for almost 10 months while we lived here. His mother is wonderful like that. And yeah, we found our feet, and then he found work. And I, in that 10 months, I guess I'll, go on to just say that it was my first landing. It was like a new relationship, you know, a new, you have the honeymoon season, and then you realize that, you know, you really need to get to know each other, and you need to get to know yourselves with each other. So me with Italia, I had to really find my place. So then we moved out and found our own feet, and like I said, and really began living in Italy. we moved into Piacenza, which is a very cute little city, but it's a little city. And yeah, we definitely had some harder times after the honeymoon season was over.
Right. And how do you feel that you were aiming for a slower lifestyle where you would have more time to, I guess, appreciate the moments, the beautiful moments that you knew were happening in front of you, but in Australia you were too distracted and there was too much going on. So do you feel like once you moved to Italy, life changed in that way, or do you feel like your relationship changed? And how?
Yeah, definitely. Things definitely slowed down, but the financial aspect definitely hit us hard. Italy doesn't pay like Australia pays for the same sort of work. So my husband was in hospitality and in quite a big way in Sydney. And so he was opening and running and restaurants and bars in really beautiful predominant areas in Sydney. And here, although he was working at the best restaurant, he wasn't making the same sort of income. And so it was a very big shock to the system for us. So like I said, it was that's when the realism became real, really hit us. And our relationship definitely struggled. And the slow, beautiful, traditional, cultural aspects of Italy got lost, and the stress came over. And also language for me. So I realized that I was alone, because without language, you don't have the freedom. I say that it's a bit like a video game. To be able to achieve and to hit the top levels, you must get through those language levels as well. So I'm in quite a good level now, but I wasn't, and I had 2 little girls, so I wasn't going to school or studying, and yeah, like lots of things. I listened to one of your lives recently, and you were saying how Italian children don't go to bed very early. So there's a lot of differences with parenting. And so my kids were getting tired because they weren't going to bed at 7 p.m. like normal. They were going to bed at 10 or 11 or 12. And so there were so many differences that stopped being romantic and started being hard. And I think as an expat, we really forget that, because when we visit a country and we have this incredible vacation, it feels very different to what it feels like when that starts to subside and you're left with really having to get into the nitty-gritty of immigrating and integrating into the culture and the lifestyle. And with a family, of course, I think that was a little bit harder, but it does happen. You do definitely settle, and you have to give yourself time to go through the hard parts and understand that every expat I've talked to, every expat has gone through very similar situations, with or without children.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah.
So would you do it again? Was it worth it?
Yes. Yes, Italy is so very beautiful. Absolutely. It's really beautiful. It's very special. And I feel very proud of myself because I created an Italian version of Elka, or that I really love. And I feel I'm still very much myself. I'm still very much not Italian. I'm very much Australian. I wear no shoes too often for Italians' liking. And I don't speak fantastic Italian either. My grammar isn't the best, but Sorry, somebody's come home. You can hear a car in the background. The little brother, not so little, 23. Don't let him hear me saying that. Anyway, so yeah, so I would definitely do it again, definitely. And I was reading a little while ago what is an expat in comparison to an immigrant. And an expat is somebody that may leave. So I may leave and live somewhere else. But after 3.5 years, almost 3.5 years of being here, I finally feel like I may not be. I'm at a really beautiful place here. We're looking for properties where we have our work, both my husband and I, that we've settled into. Have really built a community and a home, and yeah, looking at homes by the seaside as well as here in the country. And that's you're able to, because Italy is much more, you know, Sydney to buy a home is so much more expensive, and you have the capability here to, there's so many things that are abandoned, and so you have the capability to be able to buy property that's abandoned and very cheap, you know, 70,000 euro or 120,000 euro for something that's really a wreck inside. But then to renovate that, I mean, you're dreaming. That's like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't have those opportunities.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really exciting. Yeah, if people ask me if I want to live in Italy, my family just keeps assuming that I move there. And I think eventually I will, but like much later down the line as more of a retirement or second half of life kind of thing. But my plan has been from the beginning, as tempting as it is. I remember doing a homestay with a family for 6 weeks in exchange for room and board. I made artwork for them. And I remember being in the car and I was telling her, wow, look at these crumbs. It's so beautiful. There's so much history. It's so rustic and rich. And she's like, yeah, you see a beautiful crumbling wall. I see how corrupt our government is to preserve it and preserve it. Once you live here, you see, and that really stuck with me. And I kind of decided from the beginning I would rather be able to go to Italy often than live there full time and to not be able to fully appreciate how beautiful every detail is. Because as it is, I go twice a year, I stay for 3 months, and every single time I'm just blown away by every detail. You know, it's just amazing. And to live there and have that kind of wear off, I'm not sure that I want to exchange for that. But
it doesn't wear completely off, let me assure you. Summer comes back around, or the winter comes with the snow and the Christmas decorations. But you're absolutely right. It is tough on the people here. Italians really have had it really hard. Not that we'll get into too much political stuff, but they haven't been looked after.
oh, I think your sound is cutting out.
Well, that's probably a good thing. I was saying something political, so that they just haven't been looked after in the same way that other countries. Although I know that, you know, it's different all over the place, but they really, they haven't been. And as far as being very established, if you're working from outside of Italy, like I'm doing, majority of people that I work with are outside of Italy, and I work online. So because I've established that now, life is good. But if I was depending on, it's my little girl, if I was depending on working, you know, opening a bar or a restaurant, which would be a dream as well. We grew up in hospitality, me and my husband. So buying a little pizzeria on the coast and having it for fun is wonderful, but to depend on that is not the reality that you think it's going to. You know, tax situations and is not, yeah. So if you work outside of the country, like online, especially, then and live in Italy and are financially stable, and then life is really beautiful and you can appreciate those things. But as soon as money starts to slip here, it's scary, because it's not your home, it's not your country, you don't have the support. So I understand that, you know, the Nonna saying that, sorry, I've got a little one. Sorry, one moment.
Oh, that's
Sorry, guys. And it may not be the last time. That's reality for you.
sorry.
So where were
Yeah,
you?
so I think we're just wrapping up talking about the idea of whether it's worth going through the challenges of living in Italy, if it's still worth the beauty versus living outside and visiting often. But yeah, it sounds like life, there's always going to be a little bit of bitter with the sweet, and you just have to decide what's worth it.
I think moving here, you really have to just be aware that it's going to be that. It's going to be a transition, a really big transition from another language to a different culture. The way that people speak is different, just all sorts of things that you don't realize. But I mean, I was in the markets the other day and I noticed, I told this to a friend actually, I noticed a little Mary in the butcher's window hanging, and she was glistening in the sun the morning sun at about 8:30 in the morning, and the smell of peaches and the smell of the stone fruit and people talking and the nonnas sitting on the chair. Like, these things are so iconic and beautiful, and the detail here is you don't get over it. And if you can, one thing about I think that mind frame and really, I had to bring myself back to it. I had to really concentrate on writing gratitude lists and being in the present moment and not worrying and understanding that I would figure it out work-wise and everything else, so that I could appreciate like the cicadas ringing and, you know, the blackberries and the fact that I've got raspberries growing up my wall. And just, yeah, I can drive to the ocean in 45 minutes and I'm in Liguria and the Cinque Terre is there. And so
And
you just have to understand that.
I said, and do you have access to gelato?
Yeah, that can be a problem though. That can be a big problem. Every day after school, my girls are like, can we get gelato? Sí, por favor, daddy, puppy. So, yeah.
Oh man.
And of course, I can't say no, so I have one almost every day.
Yeah. I'm such a sucker for children. Oh, sorry, I think there's a lag. I was saying I'm such a sucker for children speaking Italian, so I can't imagine seeing my own children, having never grown up thinking that one day my kids would speak Italian to me. What's it like seeing your little bambini speaking beautiful Italian and becoming little Italian?
That's been a bit wild. It's so my eldest daughter is 6.5 now, so the little words when we were living in Sydney, I really you know, die, for example, which means come on. So I would say that to her a lot in the park, and people would be like, why is she telling her child to drop dead? Like, what is she doing? Die, is a vieni. and so I loved these little words that I knew, and she would say these little words, but then when we arrived here, she didn't know how to speak, and it was actually very difficult for her to begin with. But then watching her learn, she learned very fast, very fast. She's incredible in comparison to me, for sure. But and now River, who is really bilingual. So Isabella learned after 9 years, and River is bilingual in the sense that every English word that she says has a, like even her name, she says River. It's very cute. So yeah, so it is, and I have to stop and think about it and just like appreciate it. But I do that with everything. If you don't, then well, you miss life in general, right? But if you're being an expat, it's very important to appreciate these differences. Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
That's really sweet. I've never thought about that. That's really cool. So I forgot to ask you, kind of jump right into things, but since this is a coffee chat, I was wondering if you are sipping on something, what are you sipping on today? Do you have espresso?
No, water. Out of an old bio pasta jar, of course. Sustainability. No, yeah, I have a coffee every single morning, too many. And it's funny because I have a really milky coffee with vanilla soya milk, very sweet and milky. They might have a big bowl of coffee, which I still don't understand, and put their cereal in it. I still can't fathom it, but it tastes disgusting to me. So they put like coffee into a bowl, and then, well, not everybody puts cereal in it. That's some of the people in this, but I know lots of people do, but or biscuits, of course. But sweets for me, I mean, I grew up with Vegemite on toast, so I have Vegemite still in the mornings, which is an Australian spread. You might not know it, but very salty. Yeah. But water at the moment. It's 8:30, so
I have my usual decaf coffee because I'm way too sensitive to caffeine. So I'm always that girl in Italy, the only one ordering an espresso decaffeinato. And
okay, that's right. Same here in the afternoon. Do you like milk? Did you say?
I've got oat milk. I'm mostly vegan. Unless I'm in Italy, I will eat gelato.
Yeah. That's the hard thing. Definitely being vegan here in Italy is a really huge thing. I stopped being vegan when I first arrived for quite a while, and I'm not vegan now. But it's had so many roller coaster rides, and I try as often. I mean, the majority of the time I am. But being out, they cook all sorts of things. Even focaccia, I found out that they have like animal fat in most focaccia. So if you don't ask to have it without, then anyway, it's a tough game. So I understand that. Also gelati, although there are many, many soy gelatis that are delicious as well.
I'm gonna have to travel with you so you can show me the way to eat
vegan. Stay with us here, where we eat vegan in this household.
Amazing.
We have Airbnb as well. Only 2 rooms, but still cozy.
So I want to transition now into a little bit more, I guess, current topic, which is one thing that really fascinated me about you is your multicultural background. So one of your parents is Black American, the other is white Australian. You were born in California, but you grew up in Australia, and now you live in Italy. Did I get all that right?
You did. Bravo. Well done. Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. So yeah, I was born in California, and then moved back to Australia with my mum, blonde, blue-eyed mama, and my big brother, who's also half Black American, and yeah, lived in Adelaide, grew up in Adelaide.
So I'm curious, what has your journey been like in blending both sides of you, and kind of finding a place that feels like yours?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's 33 years of a journey, that's for sure, and it's only just coming to a place of real understanding. If you had have asked me that 10 years ago, I would have believed that I was at a place of understanding about it. But especially with all the movements that are happening at the moment, so much hidden trauma that I didn't realize was there has come up. Really surprising things have come up for me. So as far as my journey with it, I mean, there was an incident when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and somebody was calling me a black at school, and I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not black, like, and had to go home. And I was like, Mom, what, like, this happened today. And we went in front of the mirror, and she was like, there is a difference. And so other people do see this sometimes, and it's not, you know, she's an incredible mother, absolutely brilliant. So that was I was like, whoa, okay. So it did take, obviously, as a child, you don't see these things so much. And also I grew up with my cousins are German and Swiss, and so I really grew up with an European family. And so I was very special in the sense that I was in my family. You know, I was one of the only, my cousin as well, one of my other cousins, he's half French and Cameroon. Beautiful man, one of my beautiful cousins. Anyway, he and myself and my brother are the only ones with like that are mixed. And so yeah, so I was very unique in that sense, and I did a lot of acting as a child, and people like to stereotype that, and so it wasn't thought of as a bad thing. So there was never negative, I didn't have too many negative comments growing up, but I had confusing comments because I was beautiful because of this, or I was, you know, good because my hair wasn't too curly, or, you know, like just comments that as a young child or a teenager or even a young adult doesn't really understand. And I didn't grow up being educated on anti-racism, and I didn't know what that was. And I am not an expert in anti-racism. I'm an expert on my experiences with racism, but not with what it means to be anti-racist. So there's a lot of subtle racism that underlies difference. And also the film industry, a lot of it was very clear that I was always on the side, and that affected my self-worth way more than I realized. And so as an adult, and in my 30s, it's, in fact, I only met my father when I was 28. He found me, thank goodness, on Facebook. And after many years of, you know, hiring somebody to try and find me and trying to contact him and him trying to contact me and not having any idea of where each other were, he found me. Somebody at his work was like, why don't you make a Facebook account? And of course, like 500 photos of me came up. Good old social media. Anyway, so I flew to the States, and had my first experience with him and his wife and my American family, and it was life-changing. It was brilliant. It was better than I could have ever dreamed of as a young child. My father and my family, my whole family, are incredibly special people, all of them. They're really amazing. And see, this is what I mean by the stuff that you don't quite realize, the tears that pop up when you talk about something and you're just not expecting them. So that was then my journey. I actually realized that I hadn't been letting myself educate myself about, like, I never watched slavery movies or anything about Black America and how they were treated. Of course, I loved brandy movies and all sorts of hip hop and R&B and stuff, but I didn't know about the pain, and it's something I made sure I didn't know because of the pain I was harboring without realizing. So once I had realized and had met these beautiful people and seen myself in them and met my grandmother over there and seen and felt myself in her, and I had one experience on the second day that I was there where I saw these my father and my stepmother took me to a festival. I think it was like a Black street party or something in Oakland. So he lives just outside of San Francisco in Oakland, and it was just incredible. And I felt so out of place. I felt everybody would know that I was like white or something. Like, it was a very strange realization because obviously it's the opposite. For most of my life, I'm not white, and I don't feel it, and I always feel like I stick out in that sense. And so it was funny to feel the opposite. And I sat and watched these beautiful women, young teenage and young women dancing tribal in these gorgeous white outfits and face paint, and they were dancing to drums, and they were all different shapes, and they were all different colors and shades and sizes, and their bottoms were bigger or smaller or thin or tall or short, or they were all different shapes. They didn't have, and I got up and saw afterwards everybody got on the stage, little kids like dancing so well, and I got up and went to walk away, and I ended up almost collapsing in these sobbing tears, and my father put his arms around me, and I just cried into his shoulder like uncontrollably. It was such a strange release, and very much a realization like, oh, right, this has affected me. This really affected me, like way more than I could ever have imagined. So yeah, after that, I began to teach myself. I began to learn. I began to open my eyes. I began to feel. I began to go through the feelings, even if they were and understand them. And that's been a really special time. And of course, moving to Italy in between that, that's still been there, but it went to the full, the background for a little bit because I was concentrating on the situation. So the Black Lives Matter movement, when this all started to arise in such a way, hit me like a ton of bricks, really hit me. And I went silent on social media for a couple of weeks and had to really digest everything. And I knew that it was time
because I've had a place in my life where I'm much clearer and stronger, I guess, as well on who I am as a woman, and who I want to be and who I am. And now I just am acting accordingly. And so I knew that I wanted to speak up and say what I needed to say and share stories. And because I think that stories are so critical for people to understand and then be able to feel it from an empathetic point of view. And then from that, be pulled to change from their own gut, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that story. It's really powerful what you shared with us. I think a lot of people that have multicultural backgrounds, even if it's just a small amount, sometimes if we didn't grow up immersed in that culture, we almost don't give ourselves permission to embrace it because we feel like we don't feel like it would be authentic to embrace something that we're not growing up around. It feels like we don't have permission to access that side of ourselves because compared to people that grew up immersed in it, who are you? You're a total outsider. What do you know about our culture? That kind of thing. So it's really beautiful to hear you speak about your experience with it. So this is something I don't really talk about, in relation to what I just said. So I'm part Native American, Cherokee, Creek, and Choctaw. And I roll my eyes while I say that because so many people say like, oh, I'm 10% Cherokee, and it's like, yeah, everybody is here in the US. But the difference is I'm lucky that my dad actually raised my brothers and I with a lot of the spiritual ceremonies and culture of the Native Americans. And in terms of religion, that was the closest thing I had. So I felt such a deep connection with it. It is still so special to me, and we do still practice. As I've grown up, I've kind of blended different things that seem to work for me and have created my own spiritual path. But it's still at the core of who I am. And when I'm at like a Native American gathering, I'm so clearly an outsider, I'm so like, I don't try to assume that I have a place there because everyone there, they're like grew up on the reservation, they really have lived this Native American identity. And so compared to that, I've just had a taste of it. So I don't know. I guess I'm just seeing some parallels in your journey and some power in the way that you described your journey. And this process that I think many of us go finding and giving ourselves permission to.
Yeah, absolutely. Being mixed is definitely confusing for a lot of people, and so many people are mixed. Of course, the whole, humans, we have so many mixtures within us, and that's so very special. And but these cultures, they're pretty deep. And Native American is something, it was something that I found out that I wasn't, but I thought that I had inside my blood my entire life. And so when I was 28, my father said that he did one of those DNA tests, and there was nothing there for Native American. And that for me, because that was my grandmother was said to have Native American, so the Blackfoots were where told my mother, and there was this whole confusion around that. So I relate to you, but I also think it's very, I know lots of people that have like one or, you know, a small amount of a different nationality in them. For example, Native Australian. So, and I know that this beautiful friend of mine is also going through a journey to know how to represent that, because it's there. It's strong, right? It's really strong, and it's stronger than people. Then you can explain that there's something that is really, potent about this, and I think that it's because this blood in us and in you and in my friend and many other people that have these mixtures, they have lots of trauma attached to them, and those energetic traumas run through our bodies still, and it's so it affects our present day life in a way that we just don't understand until we start to uncover those old patterns and traumas. And I'm starting to do lots of energy healing, and I'm doing lots of study on energy healing, and I have for many years. But as far as like the blockages and the things that happen, you know, in an energetic level within our bodies, and we can say it our energy points or chakras or whatever your language you want to use, we are these beautiful balls of energy, but that energy goes right back and connected to all others, and has a and I think that as individuals, must, and then, you know, somebody might have a clearer view of their energy history, and that's beautiful as well, and very. But we, as human beings, and this is what's happening with Black Lives Matter, you know, white America doesn't quite understand the damages that have happened to those pathways that have come throughout the hundreds of years. It's something that is very hard to articulate, and it's something that we feel very deeply, and that needs to be respected and be given time to be able to be learned by each individual how they're actually feeling about it, and also respected in the sense that learned from each individual, but respected for that space to do that, and to listen to the fact if somebody says, I'm not sure why, or I think it's this, there must be, everybody just needs to respect that, you know. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you for
sounds
sharing
cutting
that.
out a bit. Yeah, thank you for listening. So I feel like I could talk to you for a really long time, but we should probably wrap up. I wanted to talk to you about water. So Italy has a history of using water as a healing source back to pre-Roman time. So it's full of hot springs and beautiful lakes and coastlines where the nobility would build their summer villas, and it's so central to Italian life. Even today, you can find free-flowing fountains in almost every village where people can still fill up their bottles to bring home. And now you are adding a new modern layer to this history of water in Italy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, okay, so this is the thing that really made my life here livable in a real, and that's a very strange thing to put it all on one object, appliance, in fact, because so I've always been incredibly interested in water, and you're right, Italy has these beautiful sources, and I do believe that these sources are supposed to be healing waters, like in Lao and lots of, sorry, Luca, here in Tuscany. Girls, it's good timing, we've got 10 minutes. And it's because the water is rushing through these mountains at certain frequencies, certain speeds, if you want. and that makes the water into an alkaline water, which is a really positive thing. So an alkaline and acidic, a body with high acidity is much more likely to get illnesses and diseases, cancer, things like this, really. And cancer, for example, can't live in an alkaline environment. So filling people's bodies with this. Unfortunately, in this day and age, Italy is now, just like everywhere else around, pollution and chemicals, and this goes into their earth and also water. So Italy, sorry, has very hard water, and hard water means that the water has traveled through the earth, collected all these minerals and chemicals, and what comes out of the tap isn't very good for our bodies. It's very acidic in comparison to so a 7 pH they say is quite average and normal for a body. But actually, a body really needs to be drinking anything from 8.5 to 9.5 pH level. So I have been looking at these water machines, filters and things, because even the stations put a lot of, they have water stations, which is brilliant because they have to, because otherwise their bottled water problem is just crazy. It's absolutely insane. It's very heartbreaking. It's another thing that twitches something and makes it. So so the stations, but they have chemicals in them as well to balance it all out, to the water softer. So lots of chlorine, etc. Anyway, so I was looking at these beautiful machines, lots of different brands, discovered the best one, and they're quite expensive because they're the best on the market. And I put it aside for a little while because things were tough here. And then I discovered that it had an opportunity attached for a compensation. To get compensation back if you referred a machine on. And I was very skeptical, incredibly skeptical at first, because I looked into all sorts of work online. Anyway, so everything that I looked at kept ticking all these boxes. I was like, oh, okay, so it's not actually like a pyramid, and it's not actually multi-marketing. It's very different structure of compensation plan. It's a unique compensation plan because it's patented. And so this Japanese company is actually a medical grade machine, so you can take it on the aeroplane, like the water itself, the aeroplane, which is one of my most hated things, traveling and not being able to take my water bottle. So I looked into it for quite a few months into it before business, and it's going to be time for patience.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure we can hear what you're sharing with us, and you keep cutting out, but I don't know if bringing it closer to you or lifting.
Probably my internet. The internet is fantastic. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
Okay. So yeah. So water is very special. I've made it.
Oh no,
Oh, it's still doing it.
not,
That's okay.
we're here now. That seems a little bit better now, but it was just quiet for a while.
Okay. So I'm not sure what to say, but yeah, it's my life.
Okay, I'm so sorry. We're not hearing anything you're saying right now. Is there a different position you can try? I guess I'm gonna have better service. It's so nice and sunny there.
Can you hear? No,
Yes, I think so.
a
Yeah.
little bit.
Mhm.
A little bit. Just say goodbye. Okay, how's that?
I think that's better.
Okay. All right. Good spot to to wind it up anyway.
Yeah.
It's been really lovely chatting to you though. Very comfortable person to talk to.
Oh, it's been really lovely to connect with you too. You're a beautiful person, and I hope to meet you. I hope that people will keep being safe here and wearing their masks so we can get through this virus and I can get back to Italy. And
Yes.
and so far it's reopening now and things are kind of going back to normal. How was it?
Yeah, it has, but you know, it's warm. It's summer, so I think for the and of course my girls haven't been to 6 months. So
I can't quite hear you. I guess we'll just have to put it up here and I will connect with you later. But
absolutely.
okay. Thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you. And you guys that are watching, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll check the comments. And I will also add in the description where you can connect with Elka and learn more about what she was mentioning with the water. She didn't quite get to finish the story, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know if you have any topics you'd like to cover in future coffee chats. But for now, we'll say ciao and ci vediamo presto.
Ciao, ciao.